the third flaw. It was honestly not that hard. Sufficiency necessary is going to be pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want you to go through that first with the loophole, and then I want to talk about
Okay.
it. But let's talk about the first one is apples to oranges. We did that, and particle. Third one is it's like an undergrad. It's a bit of an undergrad favorite. It's called correlation does not equal causation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have like some sense of what this means already,
Yeah, we
right?
talk about it all the time in psychology.
Yeah, exactly, right? The big difference though is that in psychology they talk about it statistically,
Right, right.
right? In law, it can kind of be anything. So I'll show you what that means. Start with the definitions. What does correlation mean?
Something like related.
Yeah, kind
Um,
of. Like I think the easiest way to think about it is like statistically, right? There's like seems to be like a sort of a relationship between x and y variable, right?
mhm,
In law, what correlation kind of means is like the effects of two things seem to resemble a similar characteristic, right?
mhm. Right.
Or like a parallel. And causation just basically means like one thing causes another.
Mhm,
So I think like intuitively kind of the easiest way to understand it, how it might be represented in real life instead of like graphically, is basically like think of like a highway, two cars moving down, okay, side by side, doesn't mean one is pulling the other. So in this case, like the two cars moving down at the same speed, it's like that's the effect. The cars moving at the same speed,
right.
right? Where the effect of that is being caused by something. The effect of that is being caused by the car's engines individually. It is just because they're kind of moving down at the same speed, it doesn't mean one car is pulling the other. Right? It could be that it could be the case that it is, right? But it doesn't always mean that. Um, that's correlation causation. Just because something is exhibiting a similar characteristic doesn't mean one's like actually causing the other thing to happen. Any questions
Mhm.
on that?
Nope.
Okay. There's rebuttals. And this is the important part. There's like three separate rebuttals. Okay. Like logically, and it's always one of these three. Okay, if you identify a correlation causation, the answer is always one of these three. Okay, the first one is that there's no causation.
Mm,
Like things happen by random chance all the time, right?
right.
So for example, like the cars could just be moving down together at the same speed because they feel like it, right?
Mm,
Um, the second one is that the causation is backwards, and this has a couple like caveats. So I'm going to talk about it in a cause and effect later. I'll talk about it after I talk about the third one.
mm.
The third one is that there is an external cause, okay, for both things, or like this is called the third variable.
Third variable. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you covered it in psychology. Um, so one way to kind of think about this is, the two cars could be like racing.
Mhm,
Two cars could be racing, or it could be that they're like a truck pulling both of them. And we'll go through some of these and like how they're represented on the thing. But this is how it works. The causation is backwards is it's a little bit more like difficult to abstractly wrap your head around.
mhm.
But underneath this is like basically when the cause and effect is backwards, and there's also like a population flaw. It's like kind of embedded into this, right? Because think about it like this: like if you take a survey, okay,
Mhm.
on how people feel about surveys, what kind of results are you more likely to overwhelmingly get? Like positive ones, right?
Yeah.
Because like people who don't like surveys are just not going to do them.
Right.
Right? So that's a population flaw. But in the same kind of idea, you can also kind of say that the cause and effect is backwards in that case, right? Because instead of the survey results saying it's good, like surveys are good, right?
Mm,
It's actually that the survey, like the fact of like the survey being good is kind of causing the actual survey results to be good. And I think a pretty easy way to understand this is basically through this example of, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go through an example for all of them, okay? Um, there is no causation. I'm just going to kind of skip because I don't really think. Actually, let's do it quickly. So for example, suppose someone says like, race and income, your racial demographics and income is like highly correlated. Therefore, it must be that one is causing the other, right?
mhm.
Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, they are correlated. They're not correlated because of your race. They're probably correlated
Mhm.
because of something else. Or at best, there's no causation. They're
Right.
just correlation. Causation is backwards one is It'd be something like growing up, Jacob's mom always said he should play basketball. Basketball players are very tall on average, and she would say Jacob can also grow to be very tall. Was Jacob's mom correct? So there's like two things that seem to be kind of correlated together, right? Two
Hmm.
things. What are them? What are they?
Um, that because basketball players are usually tall. Uh,
Yeah, so height, right? Height is one.
hmm
And the other thing is like playing basketball.
hmm
These two things seem to be very much interlinked together. Right?
right.
What's my mom assuming what causes what?
That if you play basketball, then hopefully you'll be tall.
Yeah. She's saying that playing basketball is gonna make me
Make you
taller,
tall.
right?
Hmm.
It's gonna cause height, right? But the reality is actually backwards, right? It's actually that height makes you play basketball. You get the logic behind why?
Yes.
Okay, explain it to me. You don't sound very confident.
I don't really know. I mean, what I mean in reality, like I mean, you don't have to be tall to play basketball, but it's because you probably are tall that's what makes you more likely to
Yeah,
play
exactly.
basketball.
Exactly, right? It's just like playing basketball, like at least for a living. Like you can't play basketball for a living if you're 5'2". Like
Right.
you just can't. Right, so it's like a self-selection process in which height causes you to play basketball,
Hmm.
if anything, right? Give you another example, okay? Um, and like these I this idea is probably the most complex, right? So I
Hmm.
just want to make sure that we drill in the logic. Um, People who have cold symptoms generally take cold medicine. However, people who do take cold medicine and people who don't exhibit similar levels of cold symptoms, some severities. Therefore, cold medicine must have no effect in mitigating these symptoms. Right? Does that make sense?
People who do take on people who don't exhibit. I don't really get the second sentence. However, people who do take cold medicine and people who don't exhibit similar levels of cold symptoms. Or...
Yeah. So further conclusion is that the cold medicine has no effect.
Mm, mm,
So one thing you have to keep in mind is like instead of arguing that there is a causation, they can actually argue that there isn't a causation for the fact that
mm,
there isn't a correlation. Right? Same thing, same ideas. So they're kind of saying that cold medicine has no effect. And how they're kind of developing this idea seems to be in an apples to oranges fashion, right? There's two
mm,
groups
right.
of who who took meds, plus people who
Didn't.
didn't,
Yeah.
right? And what are they kind of saying?
That they either way has no effect.
They seem to have similar levels of severity. As in, like, I cough 10 times in a minute when I'm sick, and even it seems like that when I take the medication, I still cough 10 times. But what you have to remember here is that we're not looking at the cause and effect. We're not looking at the full picture here. As
Hmm.
in, we're not looking at the people who took cold medicine and saw betterment, right?
Mm,
Basically, what that kind of means is like they're kind of insinuating this idea, okay, insinuating this idea that cold medicine has no effect on symptoms, okay? Because they're kind of insinuating that cold medicine should do something with symptoms.
right.
It
Hmm.
should do something to symptoms, but it doesn't. Therefore, no effect, right? What's actually more likely here? The symptoms drive you to have cold medicine. It's a population differential.
Right. Mm.
Think about it. Think about it. Like,
This makes sense. Yeah, I get
yeah,
it.
people who have like a really severe cold are gonna take cold medicine, and then
Hmm.
after taking cold medicine, they're gonna be kind of like in a lighter symptom stage as like
Hmm.
everyone else, right?
Right.
So the cause and effect here is not that the
Hmm.
cold medicine is causing you to
Right.
have the effects of lower symptoms, that the higher symptoms is making you have take medicine. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay.
Alrighty,
Hmm.
I want to do one more. Um, Actually, no, I'm gonna save that for the questions because we'll do a lot. Third one is the external cause. Third grade.
Hmm.
This will be kind of exhibited is like this. Okay. In New York City, crime rates for petty incidents and ice cream sales exhibit a very close statistical correlation. Therefore, they must be causing one another. Right?
Hmm.
So there's two things, of course, like two kind of results of which are just being shown, right? Petty crime incidents and ice cream sales.
Yeah.
Logically, it makes no sense how they could be causing one another.
Right.
They're concluding that it does because they're correlated, right? So it's like a pretty classic case of correlation does not equal causation. What could be happening here?
All right.
What could be happening here?
Oh, well, they're two separate things. Like it's ice cream sales don't affect incidences.
Yeah, they're two separate things. You're totally right. But like, think about it in the context of what. Look at the subheading, right?
Yeah, the third variable.
Yeah. So what could be going on here?
Like there's something else affecting
Yeah. Think
the
about
crime.
like what could be affecting crimes.
Maybe like starvation or something. I don't know. Like they're getting
Starvation,
like maybe they're getting more hungry. I don't know. Like so they're doing more.
more hungry. Sure.
Maybe that's why they
Um,
assume ice cream sales.
are becoming more hungry. Well, how would being more hungry lead to crime
Maybe like robbing
or
more.
food?
Like yeah.
No, petty crime is like pickpocketing.
Oh, like they need money for
Yeah.
food. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. What is something that could be causing both of them? I think you're like a truck pulling two cars. Right? It's causing both of them. When do ice cream sales go up?
It's hot usually, like in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
summer.
And it's actually just weather. Like ice cream sales is pretty self-explanatory. Petty
Mm-hmm.
crime, right? What do you need for petty crime to occur?
Is it? I don't know. This is just random. But is it like
Like
tourists? Maybe like more tourism,
tourists,
more
no. As in like
people
for you to get pickpocketed, right, Hannah? What do you
mm-hmm.
have to do?
go out more. I don't know.
You have to go out more, yeah, right? For there to be a
Mm-hmm.
pickpocket, you need to be outside. Does that make sense? And then like what are you
Yeah,
more likely to do in the summer?
probably go outside.
Go outside. Yeah, there's a lot more people outside. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is true, by the way. Like this actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
You can Google it. Like it's true. Right? It's weather is the third variable causing both of them to occur.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I really like the third variable. Um, another example could be something like like intelligence and LSAT score seem to be very much correlated, but like that means like if you're intelligent, you're going to score a high LSAT score. No, right? It's like there's probably a third variable that's still just as likely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Cool. That's correlation causation. Any questions on that?
Not really. I mean, I just need to grasp probably the second one more because I feel
The
like
the,
that one.
the backwards?
Yeah, just because like to what again like
Oh,
to what
yeah.
extent on like how to when to know that that's like a backwards kind of.
Don't worry, because what we're gonna do for the rest of our time. Okay, I'm gonna do this one. Do you see this? Let me just stick with the three things that we always do, okay?
Okay.
Conclusion, premise, flaw.
The average tax refund received by taxpayers who use tax preparation services rather than the average refund received by those who do not. So if you want a large refund, you should use a tax preparation service. Okay. Okay, so the conclusion is if you want a large refund, you should use a tax preparation service.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the premise is the first sentence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So it
this
seems
one,
it's so
mhm,
yeah. So the flaw. What's the flaw?
uh, what's saying that people who do use it tend to get 50% higher than average refund.
Well,
So
no.
the
Let's yeah, yeah.
mhm.
So go ahead.
So it's like they're correlating that
Yeah,
like
it's
if you use it, then therefore you would also get a large refund.
exactly. Just saying that there's a correlation between two things, right? Tax
Mm-hmm.
prep services and average returns, right?
Right.
So to kind of make it very simple here, there's tax prep, right? And there's higher refund.
Mm-hmm.
What are they saying causes what?
Um, they're saying that tax prep services equals to a large refund.
Tax prep causes higher refund, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that they're correlated.
Yeah.
But think about it. Think about it by like going through the list sequentially. Like there's like one, two, three, right? Okay. It seems very unlikely that there is no causation, right? It's like tax prep and tax return, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first one's kind of like the third one seems very, very unlikely. Like what other things could even be relevant to the fact of like these two things, right? Like you're on a tax prep and whatever. So the second one actually makes a lot of sense here, which is actually to just say, okay, higher refund causes tax prep service use.
Because they want a higher refund, that's what you would be using the services, right?
Well, that's still in this category, right?
Mm-hmm.
You use the services so that you get a higher refund because you want a higher refund, right?
Right.
What does it mean that, what do you think it mean that higher refund is actually causing tax prep services?
So like because they
Yeah,
got a
actually,
higher refund,
not because they got a higher refund, but because they're expecting a higher refund,
okay. So
right?
they used the tax prep service?
Yeah, kind of, right?
That's
You
also
got like,
similar to the second one though.
what do you mean? It is the second one. We're dealing with the second one. This one,
No,
right?
I meant like it sounds so similar to what we were just saying with the tax prep equals the higher refund. Like it
Oh, tax
sounds
prep.
so
Oh,
similar.
equals. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. That's the thing about like logic. It sounds very, very, very similar when you're reading it. So like until you kind of like can think about it like this, cause and effect, like it's very, very confusing, right? Um. Anyway, so basically, what it basically means is this: who are the people that are more likely to get a higher refund? Think about the population of people.
Mm-hmm.
Who are more likely to get a higher refund? Like think about how taxes work. How do
Mm-hmm.
taxes work? How does a tax refund work?
It's it's like the people who pay,
Pay into it, right?
yeah, who pay more into it.
Right. And like, what kind of people pay more taxes?
People who are more wealthy.
People who earn more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people who earn more are probably gonna want to use more tax prep personal services, right?
Right.
So it's not that tax prep actually causes higher refund. It's actually people the kind of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kind of people who are more likely to get a high refund end up using a tax prep service.
Right.
And that's why these things are correlated.
Mm-hmm.
It's a population issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that.
Right. Do you want to take a look at this one? Pick one which makes sense to you.
Okay.
Um, it's one of these three. I'm gonna tell you that. I gotta run downstairs to grab my girlfriend. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
Okay.
that. Which one do you think it is?
A.
Yeah, right. Pretty. You can think of this like backwards causation. You can think of this like swap and cause and effect, right? It's all kind of
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. Cool, cool. Let's move on to another question. Right. I want to for this one, I just want to share my screen just because the questions are more important. I will kind of take a screenshot of this and add it to Word document for you.
Okay. My set the people was videotape fault serving action extra period such as public gesture spoke more quickly and repeat themselves less.
What's the conclusion?
That gesturing helps speakers.
Present. The idea like helps. What idea does that represent?
Mm, it's like causation.
Yeah, causation, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what's the premise about
That watching the videotaped, the
watching
of like the cartoons, and
and
then they were able to like gesture or not gesture while speaking.
right? So I think this is the sentence you're going to focus on, right? There seems to be a correlation between two things, right? And they're saying that is causing. Does that make sense?
All right, that like cut out what?
Oh, no, that's sorry. There's a correlation between these two things, right?
Right.
If you gesture, it seems like you repeat themselves less, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
correlation,
Right.
right? Um, you see how it's like the big thing with the LSAT with correlation causation is like it's not about the statistics, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
about like there's two things just kind of happening together, right? So does that mean it causes them?
No.
No, right? Oh, that's a flaw. And but the question itself is actually asking for what enables a conclusion to be properly drawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like kind of intuitively, what would you kind of say if the flaw is a correlation is not equal causation? What enables that?
I'm not sure.
Like if the flaws are correlations and equal causation, the idea that would enable okay, the conclusion would be that correlation does equal causation,
Right.
right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Let me just look at that.
Ordinarily, almost everyone regularly gestures when speaking quickly and with low repetition, regardless of the topic being discussed. Um, that one's kind of like generalizing.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it says ordinarily, almost everyone.
Hmm.
I don't think it's that one. The cartoons were chosen by those who conducted the experiment and were selected from a variety of sources. I'm
Doesn't matter who
talking
chose the
about,
cartoons.
yeah, as I'm talking about the
That doesn't matter.
correlation or not, yeah.
Exactly.
An informative behavior correlated with quicker speech and less repetition in speech helps speakers find the phrases they want quickly. It uses the word correlated. Quicker speech and speech help speakers find the phrases they want quickly. Didn't that one kind of make sense?
All right, so it's saying any form of behavior that's correlated does what?
With quicker, well, it says correlated with quicker speech and less repetition.
Yeah, and that does.
So that's not related. Well, it says those whose gestures spoke more quickly and repeated themselves.
All right, well, we're trying to get from correlation to causation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is saying if it's correlated with quicker speech and less repetition, what is correlated with quicker speech and less repetition?
The behavior.
Yeah, the behavior we're
So
dealing
that's
with, right?
not.
The gesturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a behavior that's correlated with quick
Mm-hmm.
speech. And this behavior does what, according to
Help
this
speakers
answer?
find the phrases they want quickly.
So this is saying if it's correlated, it's,
Causation?
yeah, right? This is about as good as
Yeah.
the answer gets,
Yeah. So it makes a little sense. I mean, I haven't
right?
seen the other ones, but
Let's look at D&E.
mm-hmm. Any form of behavior that helps speakers quickly find the phrases they want also enables them to speak more quickly and repeat themselves less than they would if they were not engaged in the behavior. It's just kind of repeating what the premise was saying.
The argument is a premise to conclusion, right? No?
Mhm.
Think about this sentence, right? Think about this sentence in the song. What idea is this bringing in?
Any form of behavior that helps speakers quickly find the phrases they want.
Is it correlatory or causal idea?
Sorry?
Yeah,
It keeps cutting out too.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my
So I
God.
was just hear
That
like you say something and I'm like, what?
reading D, like the argument structure is always like there's a premise and therefore the conclusion, like always. Okay.
Mhm.
And so here what we need is a correlation, therefore causation, right? D starts with causation.
Oh, so this
So,
would be the
yeah,
backwards.
exactly. Any form of behavior that helps quick speakers quickly find the phrases they want. So if it's a behavior that causes this, it causes something else as well. That's what this is saying.
Right.
Right? So like just logically, there's just like it's not very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh, the second word out the gesture. Those who spoke most quickly and repeat themselves lays were among those who gestured the most. That's just kind of like continuing on like the premise, but just giving more facts.
Is this a correlation or causation?
Um, correlation.
No, it's just more correlation, right? It doesn't take us to
Mm-hmm.
causation. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah. So C was the only one that had
Exactly. See, the only one that actually
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
does the thing that the answer is asking for. Does the
Mm-hmm.
answer like, do you think you're getting like a better grasp of LSAT now? Does it kind of make more sense? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Actually, yeah, this is a pretty good one.
Okay. Okay, this one is definitely like the correlation again. But okay, so the conclusion is all probability Megatherium was predator because of the forelimbs. Oh, hmm.
I mean, all that predatory mammals need to move fast, right?
So just
Oh,
because they think that they move their limbs very fast, that's why they think it's a predator.
yeah, there's like a correlatory element, right? Like you do
Mm-hmm.
this if you're this, and therefore it's that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you see how like that's just like a very flawed pattern of reasoning.
Right, right.
I'll tell you like a really, really neat hack with the LSAT, okay? Always think of the other side whenever I like told you something. You remember the
Mm-hmm.
two-part thinking that we talked about last time?
Mm-hmm.
Always think about the other side. In this case, they're using like the predator as an example.
No, they're using the Megatherium.
No, they're using the predator as an example, right? Predators need to do
Mm-hmm.
this, right? What's the opposite of a predator?
The prey.
What does a prey also need to do?
Also probably run fast as well.
Yeah, like if you just like you see how like just like kind of thinking in this like logical thing of like thinking the opposite helps you like get to like whatever the issue is really quickly.
Mm.
Like it makes no sense why this would be a predator because it's like a coin flip. They both need to
Right,
move fast.
right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's go through the answers here.
Okay. It feels to address the possibility that most mammals but the short have not been predators. Most mammals but short. Just have not been predators. Like, I don't think that's, I don't know if it's talking about.
Move on from A. I'll tell you later. Move on from A.
Okay. It takes for granted the only reason predators need to move their forelimbs quickly is to attack prey. Oh, so similar to me. I mean, okay, this one is talking about the forelimbs moving quickly and how also prey is all probably also moving quickly. That I mean that would make sense. I think B. Yes.
Not B. Um, this is actually a really good lesson. I remember in chapter one of the loophole, it basically said like to read every word.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what I did too, just FYI when I started. I find that students have an overwhelming tendency to skip this part.
Fails to, oh, at the beginning. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they just like don't consider this at all, right? I'm like,
Right.
you can't not consider it because it's part of the answer. You got to read every word. So I'll tell you this thing where the LSAT just like has like two different ways of like representing like a flaw type answer, right? Either they overlook or they assume. It like always falls into these two buckets. They mean the same thing,
Mm,
right? Remember when I said that on the LSAT, you can't assume it needs to be stated 100% every time?
yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
when it says assume, your immediate thinking needs to be like, when the hell did they say that? The question is like for the us for something like it takes for granted, for this to be correct, it needs to actually have taken it for granted. Okay. Takes for granted just means
Okay.
assumes. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So my question is, it's saying it's assumed this. Did they assume this?
No.
No, they never assume this is the only reason ever. Right? They just
Mm-hmm.
don't say that. Right? That's why B is incorrect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's look at D because it's the other takes for granted, right?
We're no shorter than those of living mammals are. I mean, it wasn't said either.
Doesn't say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think about like the difference between it assumes and overlooks. What's the definition of overlooks?
Kind of skips over it.
Yeah, you kind of forgot about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the very nature of its like statement is just like it's something that they didn't say, right? So the tricky thing about these fault categories is like they're like always in a very like abstract language, and you have to understand this first bit to understand the rest of it. So if they overlooked it, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of comes down to it has like well the first thing is like if they overlooked it, it has like much lower burden of proof than it assumed it. Yeah.
Right.
Also, if they overlooked it, if whatever it says has like a tiny bit of possibility in like being the flaw,
Mm.
it can be correct, right? If it's like an
Right.
actual consideration that you just did not consider,
Mm-hmm.
that you should have considered, it's a flaw, right?
Right.
So looking at E, it fails to address the possibility that a longer oath may confer some other advantage, right? That doesn't matter. Like I don't care about other advantage, right? Like we only care about how they can correlation causation. Right? I don't care about what other thing is causing this thing to exist in this animal, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Overlooks the possibility that magma could have been a successful predator. It doesn't matter if it was a successful predator.
No.
No, it doesn't say anything about successful predator. But when you look at A, it fails to address the possibility that most mammals with short processes have not been predators. Is there a possibility that other
Okay.
mammals could have just like been prey? Right. And think about that in like respect to this, right? In order to make an argument that M was a predator, well, it's sure as hell problematic if like 80% of the other animals with the short O process was a
Mm.
prey, right?
Right.
And it makes sense too, right? There's like a lot more prey than predators. Um, does the process of like kind of like literally thinking about the language itself and like
Mm.
thinking about all of the language.
Right.
You can't like skip a word in the LSAT. But remember this. Assumes and overlooks different, okay? They're
Mm-hmm.
different. And like there's like there's no third option. It's either one of these two. Okay. They're
Right.
just like represented differently. Cool. Any questions on this?
Um, I just like with the wording of like have not been predators. I think that just threw me off. But like,
Have not been predators?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. They love doing that because like you know the FedEx logo?
yeah,
You know how it has like an arrow?
yeah. They're mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw like a meme about it a while ago, but you know, like most people don't realize that. Like I never realized that until someone pointed it out. Like and
Right.
that's because like our brain just does not think very well of negatives. Like it just doesn't. Like it's like a human nature, right? Right? Like think about that in like the negative of like not something.
Been predators. So
Like my honest
negation.
advice to you is that whenever you get like a negative thing, just like switch it into something positive. Not
Mm,
predator, just like switch it to like a prey. So just like if you paraphrase this, like have not been predators, to, like have been prey, it makes
mm,
a bit more sense. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah.
Cool. There's like one question I really love. Not this one. Question I really love. I want to kind of go through it quickly.
Okay.
Um, this one, that one. Okay, let's do this one. This one's like exceptionally tough. It's like for like some questions are like a 6 out of 5, right? And not like a 5 out of 5. One thing I want to say, you know, is I just want you to start getting experience for the tough questions. As in like, there's only one reason why hard questions are hard. Okay. Actually, there's two reasons. Number one is because they like always use like really like shitty language. Like to put
Mhm.
it bluntly, like they use like confusing language. Like your number one weapon against that is to think about it separately. So like you don't try and read the thing at once. Like read a sentence, understand a sentence, and then read the second sentence and understand that, right? Um, and the second thing is if you kind of think about the answer to every question is like finding like the flaw in between like the conclusion and the premise, right? It's like some people call it the gap, whatever, right? The harder questions are harder by virtue of the gap just being like a little bit smaller, right? And just by nature of how English works, the smallest amount of gap you can have is because of one word, right? Almost every single really tough, hard questions, right, have a flaw of one word. That's my hint. Okay? Same thing, conclusion premise, but one word. It's going to be a little bit like anticlimactic when I tell you the answer for this.
Okay, everyone should have access to mobile newspaper, but there are at least two sets of stories. And both sides of an important story should be covered. And notice it. Okay, the conclusion is everyone should have access to more than one newspaper. They're saying how like there are more than one sides to the story. Some important stories will not be adequate. There were only one newspaper, sir. Yeah,
What's the flaw?
like they're kind of assuming that like all sides of the stories is important.
Yeah,
So they assume that everyone should have access to more than one because they're saying that not all of these newspapers cover everything.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, so it doesn't cover everything. So should people have access to them?
Yes, that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. Yeah. What's the issue?
Not everyone's.
I think if it says something like everyone should purchase, I think it'd be a pretty clear apples to oranges fault, right? That doesn't mean
Mhm.
just because you should have an access to something, doesn't mean you need to buy it, right?
Right.
But in this case, it's like you should have access to it, right?
Mm.
It's like a pretty subjective conclusion. It's a little tough to crack,
Mm.
right? You should have access to like every dimension, right? Every dimension of the story.
Right.
But I'll highlight one word, okay? And then I'll kind of let you figure out the rest, okay?
Important. Okay. Since all sides of an important story should be covered, and no newspaper adequately covers both sides of every one of its stories. Some important stories would not be adequately covered if there were only one newspaper. Because they're saying there's some important stories would not be adequately covered. There were only one newspaper.
You think that no newspaper adequately covers every story, two sides of every story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what does that requirement to cover two sides of every story exist under?
Wait, could you repeat that? What?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, no newspaper, okay?
Mm-hmm.
No newspaper covers both sides of every story. But do we need to cover both sides of every story?
No.
What's the requirement here?
As long as they have access to more than one newspaper.
Oh, we need to cover both sides of every important story.
Mm.
They're not the same thing. Important story and every story is not the same thing.
Right.
So there is a requirement for everyone to have more than two sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
No newspaper covers both sides for everything. But it could be
Mm-hmm.
the case that a newspaper covers both sides for every important newspaper. Right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The only logical flaw that exists is by virtue of this one word.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to take a look at the answers?
I think confuses the inability to cover all the sides of every story, the ability to cover all sides of any important story. I mean, this mentions the important versus the every story.
Yeah. Can you tell me why everything else would be incorrect if you think it is correct?
The argument overlooks the possibility that two newspapers could provide the same incomplete coverage of the same important stories. I mean, talking about the two newspapers here? No. Yeah, because they're talking about every um, side. The conclusion about what newspapers should do is inferred solely from statements about what newspapers in fact do. Hmm.
Yeah, so you see it incorrect. For B, it's not the last thing that you said. It's
Oh.
actually it says the argument overlooks the possibility that two
Mm-hmm.
newspapers would do this, right? Overlooks this possibility. But why does like you gotta think about like does the argument overlook that?
No,
It doesn't, right?
it
Because
doesn't. Mm-hmm.
it never says you should have two newspapers.
Right.
There's like a pretty big semantics joke here, right?
Mm.
It says more than one newspaper. It doesn't mean two.
Right. The argument takes for granted that everyone has access to all newspapers. Is not what the conclusion is technically arguing. It takes for granted that everyone has access to all newspapers. I don't know how. I don't see how that one is. Law
Right. Really? What does this mean?
argument takes. Like it's talking about everyone should have access to more than one newspaper.
Mm-hmm. What does takes for granted mean?
Ignores or like,
You know, remember there's two buckets. Assumes and
mm,
overlooks. Assumes and overlooks.
mm,
That's the two buckets, right?
so it overlooks.
Yeah, assumes and overlooks. What does
Mm,
this statement fall into?
overlook.
Takes for granted. What do you think granted means?
Like it's information that you already have, and they just kind of like
You already have
don't.
this,
They don't really
like
like address it.
information that is already have and then I'll address it. No, that's not what granted means. Whenever you come across a word that you don't know, here's what you do. Number one is when you're doing a PT, write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Google it, write it down. And number two is like on your actual test, if you come across this kind of issue, think about when you've seen the word before. Okay. I am 100% sure you've heard the word granted before, and
Mm-hmm.
probably some sort of love song, like I took you for granted or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you took like a lover for granted, for example, do you need to have had them in the first place?
Yes.
Yeah, right. I took you for granted means you
Like it's
assumed that they would
past.
you
Mm-hmm.
assumed that they would stick around,
Mm.
right? You assume that they would be part of your life. So take for granted just means assumes. It means the exact same thing as assumes. You can synonymously change
Okay.
it. It just never assumes that, right? Just never
Mm-hmm.
assumes that everyone has access. They say everyone should have access.
Mm.
E is really similar to A. Why is E different?
I mean, it's concerned only with important stories and not with all stories. Is it because it says only?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because it doesn't say it says some important stories.
yeah, right. Of any versus
Mm.
only, different, right? Harder LSAT questions basically just become like a little bit of a joke, and it's just like they all like kind of come down to like semantics, more or less. It's not that the logic gets like particularly different. It's just that the language gets very sparse, right? So get in the habit of like reading very carefully and thinking about like what each word kind of contributes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this, I think the only difference between people who score 160 to 170 is just like attention to detail,
Mm.
right? The LSAT, like keep this in mind, the LSAT is a test that heavily awards, okay, a very
Mm-hmm.
rigid sense of analysis.
Right.
Um, do you have like a friend that doesn't really get like social context very well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone does kind of. Like, like you don't really get it until you say it straight up, like straight off.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to kind of tend the LSAT in the same mindset. And then, like, if they don't say it straight on, you can't assume anything.
Right.
And it's a test that really rewards that, almost
Mm-hmm.
like a almost like a social disability perspective.